For Peter, the son and heir, encouragement turned to expectation. He was groomed to emulate his father and become chief scout in his turn. It was more than the boy could manage.
Over the pressures that we all three had, I suppose, because of our parents being in the public eye like that, I suppose it was difficult. I think my brother felt it, my brother Peter felt it most, because of course they felt their only son must be rather extra special, and he was a particularly normal, ordinary chap.
I'm afraid the expectations were more than he could bear. My grandparents really did wish to have a mirror image of my grandfather, which is plainly impossible. My father was a very sickly child. He actually had a very happy childhood, but he had pressures applied to him by his parents, particularly his mother, which were beyond his capabilities. My father was so terrified of her that as an adult, he loathed ever going to see her, and it was very much a duty visit to see her. And I do remember him on occasion actually wetting his pants. This is a mature man wetting his pants, going to see his mother. That is the fear that she put into her son, because as far as she was concerned, he was a failure.
11,000 scouts in this Jamboree camp will be reviewed by the chief.
It was hard to be anything but a failure compared to his father. By 1931, there were 3 million Boy Scouts, to whom Baden Powell, now dubbed Chief Scout of the World, was a superstar.
Let us then, with pride, repeat the Scout promise. On my honor, I promise I will do my best to do my duty to God and the King.
In his desire to make scouting the spearhead for world peace, Baden Powell even sought to embrace the Hitler Youth. Though critical of Hitler himself and his creed of racial purity, he did admire elements of the Führer's philosophy.
Lay up all day reading Mein Kampf, a wonderful book with good ideas on education, health, propaganda, and organization.
In his naivety, he was still arguing in 1937 for British Scouts to fraternize with the Hitler Youth, though he changed his mind well before war broke out.
Long after Scout commissioners and advisors were trying to break connections, he was trying to keep them. He was moved by the fact that the Hitler Youth, clearly in some ways based on his own principles. I think he saw the Hitler Youth as an organization attempting to do what he was attempting to do, that is to train boys to be obedient and to accept the authorities from above. He found, I think he was reluctant to break relationships with an organization which he felt shared the same kinds of values that he shared in terms of obedience and cleanliness and an ordered existence and support of the government.
By the time war broke out, the aging boy man had left Pax Hill to settle in Kenya. He was now in his 80s. To the end, he retained the power to captivate children.
When I was about 3 years old, my family went up to Kenya to stay with him. Now, as a child, I was very curious, and I always wanted to know answers to my questions, and nobody would ever give them. But for the first time in my life, I met somebody who would not only answer the questions, but expand on it, so that it really gave me an overall picture. And of course, that was the old man. And because of that, I absolutely adored him.
It was in the Africa that he knew and loved so well that Lord Baden Powell was laid to rest. Near his home at Nyeri in Kenya, the coffin was borne with full honors to the cemetery
and final tributes were paid to that great man, the Chief Scout. As a soldier, his fame was great. And as the founder of the finest youth movement ever organized, he will be remembered by generations to come.
It's interesting how he did channel two important aspects of himself into the Boy Scouts. One was his homosexuality. That was a very positive achievement, and he allowed boys of all sorts of backgrounds and economic difficulties and things to have a good life. The second thing I think he channeled into the Scouts was his Peter Pan complex. He was absolutely preoccupied with being a child and never growing up. And I think that by concentrating on boys, small boys, he in some way allowed his own identification with them to remain permanent. He was always a small boy, indulging in small boys' games.